It is a sound anyone who lives near the 3 Mile Island nuclear plant knows. These warning sirens are used in the event of an emergency at the facility. Exelon says the siren network is tested at full volume twice a year for 3 minutes, and each individual siren is tested monthly at a lower volume for a shorter period of time. There are 96 sirens within a 10-mile radius of the plant in Cumberland, Dauphin, Lancaster, Lebanon, and York counties. The sirens were improved in 2012 to have better sound quality and better battery backups to ensure they will work during an electrical outage.
One of the first communities that would feel an impact from an accident at 3 Mile Island is Goldsboro, York County. The town sits directly opposite Middletown across the Susquehanna River.
Immediately following the accident, experts found levels of radiation in the air around Goldsboro, and some residents there were the first to pack up and get out.
Charlie Rich Creek of Goldsboro grew up with the TMI cooling towers. In fact, he says, an uncle helped build them. On foggy days, the towers rise out of the river and dwarf everything else. He remembers the 1979 accident, but he says it doesn't seem like 40 years have gone by.
It doesn't feel like it's that long.
Rich Creek is a plumbing and electrical contractor in Goldsboro. In 1979, he had graduated from Redland High School. His girlfriend was a senior. He remembers the fear in town after the accident and the rush by many to get away.
You didn't know what it was going to be.
Rich Creek, his former girlfriend, her mother, and other family members traveled to Bedford County, which is 3 hours away. But Charlie's mother and father, along with his girlfriend's father, stayed behind. There was a fear of radiation spreading from the plant.
Yep.
Right. Wow.
Yep, and that was what everybody was concerned with.
Decades after the TMI accident, Charlie lost members of his family to cancer, and he has always wondered if it was somehow connected.
My mother and oldest brother, yep.
Bruce Waldrop lives on the south side of Goldsboro. While his family didn't live in town in 1979, he has vivid memories of the accident. He was 7 years old at the time.
I remember when the President
Carter?
Yeah.
The TMI accident was history in the making, and Waldrop hopes the history will be preserved even if the plant closes.
I guess you can say it's a national landmark.
Waldrop has a sentimental attachment to the towers.
I hope they don't knock it down.
He would like the plant turned into a museum. He would like to take a tour, a close-up view of where America's worst nuclear accident happened.
We'd love to see inside it, see what it looks like inside.
For now, a painting of the nuclear power plant hangs on the wall in the borough office, a reminder of 3 Mile Island before it became a household name.
At the time of the accident, Goldsboro was one of the many communities inside the 5-mile evacuation zone that then Governor Dick Thornburgh recommended for women and young children to leave. In the event of a nuclear emergency at TMI today, Exelon says those within 10 miles would feel the impact first. That area stretches from Hummelstown, Dauphin County in the north, to Mount Joy, Lancaster County in the east, Manchester Township, York County in the south, and west to New Cumberland in Cumberland County.
What happened at 3 Mile Island created a whole genre of pop culture, from books and movies to songs, even board games. The crisis was felt and heard by an entire generation. Just 12 days before the accident at TMI, a movie premiered that would foreshadow a similar nuclear crisis. The China Syndrome premiered March 16, 1979, starring Jane Fonda, Jack Lemmon, and Michael Douglas. It depicted the story of a television reporter and her cameraman who discover a safety risk at a nuclear power plant in California.
I would say you're probably lucky to be alive. Same for the rest of Southern California.
In this YouTube trailer, you can see a partial meltdown happening at the plant. In the movie, the reactor comes dangerously close to what is called the China Syndrome, which is when the nuclear core melts into the earth, polluting groundwater and the surrounding area with radioactive steam. The film was a big hit, making more than $51 million and nominated for 4 Academy Awards. Jane Fonda and her husband, Tom Hayden, both outspoken critics of nuclear power, came to 3 Mile Island in September 1979 to speak as part of a 50-city anti-nuclear tour. Musicians also used the crisis as a launching point for songs, including several local bands. Maxwell, a funk and R&B group from Columbia, Lancaster County, put out a song called Radiation Funk. It got widespread airplay.
Radiation funk.
A lot of other local bands created nuclear-themed tracks in the aftermath of the accident. Some of the titles include Goodbye TMI by Gary and the Outriders, based out of Middletown, and Nuclear Twist by the Hipsters from State College. Bruce Springsteen even released a track in the wake of TMI titled Roulette, highlighting the danger of nuclear reactors, including to those who live near them. Springsteen and dozens of other artists participated in the No Nukes concert shortly after the accident in September of '79. There were also T-shirts, signs, buttons, coins, and stickers created in the aftermath, some serious, others bringing much-needed relief to the heightened tension surrounding the accident. One family even produced a board game about the partial meltdown called Reactor. The game was created by Adam, Diane, and Edward Sandnes. The game's objective? Lose radiation and perform a cold shutdown of a nuclear reactor. Just 1 week after the accident, Saturday Night Live performed a sketch called The Pepsi Syndrome, which depicted Bill Murray spilling a Pepsi on the control board of a nuclear reactor, causing a meltdown. It also made fun of President Jimmy Carter for the yellow boots he wore when he visited TMI shortly after the accident. Coming up next.
You can't lose 600 jobs and not have it impact other businesses within the tax base.
I'm hopeful that we don't close. It would definitely be a change to the horizon.
With 3 Mile Island now in danger of closing, we take a look at what our community would look like without it.